we will introduce you. Do you just want us to introduce you as Desiree? How do you?
Listen, as of tonight, you can introduce me as Dr. Desiree.
Really?
What?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Dr. Desiree.
Dr. Desiree. I'm using it now.
Fuck yeah, you earned that shit.
Yeah, you worked hard for that.
So proud
Use
of you.
it. Yes, congratulations.
Guess what, guys?
We're not doctors.
No, we are not.
If you're going to be making any major medical decisions, please consult your doctor.
That includes diets, exercise, medications, and surgery.
We love you guys.
And we want you to continue to be in our OSLP family forever.
So be careful and consult your doctors. Have you heard of ProCare, or just have you been living under a rock?
ProCare is the very first bariatric multivitamin to develop a one-a-day vitamin. That's right, you heard it correctly, one a day. And they also have delicious dark chocolate calciums that are available during the winter months.
That's right. So go to procarenow.com, get your calcium chews, get your multivitamin, and use OSLP for a discount.
Are you feeling a little sluggish? Little lack of protein? Little lack of caffeine? Well, we got the fix for that.
That's right. Dive Bar Nutrition has the best protein bars. They have caffeine, protein, and they taste delicious.
So head on over to divebarnutrition.com and use code OSLP at checkout.
Are you located in the Florida area?
Well, we have the perfect office for you. Dr. Fridley and his wife, Macy, have created the perfect, welcoming, and safe place for your bariatric journey.
That's right. So click on the link below to start your weight loss journey now. And don't forget to tell them that the OSLP's girls sent you.
I know I didn't have enough support during my weight loss journey.
She didn't. And when we found the tribe, we were over the moon because not only do they offer you at least one support group a day, but they give you the tools and the knowledge to really succeed on your journey.
That's right. So go over to thesleevedietitian.com and find the subscribe button for the tribe and use OSLP to get your discount.
Welcome back, OSLP family. Yeah.
Welcome.
Tongue-tied that one a little bit.
You kind of did. You want to redo it?
No.
Okay.
You are listening to our Sleep Life podcast, and this is Kelly.
This is Matt.
And as you guys probably already know, we are thrilled to announce that the official vitamin of our Sleep Life podcast is ProCare.
100%.
We have been on them for almost 4 years now. That's all we take. We try others, but we always end up back at ProCare because it is.
One, they're delicious.
They're delicious.
There's one a day.
They're easy.
Some of these you have to take like with every meal. And I'm like, who's going to remember that? I can barely remember to take the one.
Exactly.
So I love that there's a one a day. I love the dark chocolate for the calcium.
Yep.
Like there's insulin resistance. Like they have so many different things for you.
Like I am sick so much less since I have started taking MACD. Mm-hmm. So like their products are just life-changing to me.
They are. Well, and we learned not to take the MACD at nighttime. It kept me up. I did it for 3 days straight. That's how I knew. I was like, why is it so weird?
So take it during the day. I take it first thing in the morning with all my other pills.
Yep.
It's great. So, but we are very excited to have an official vitamin of the podcast. So if you're interested in purchasing ProCare, go over to procarenow.com and use code OSLP at checkout. Now, if you are already on your phone, you are already on your computer, whatever you're doing.
We know you are.
You are. I mean, duh.
Yeah.
You need to go to oursleevelifepodcast.com because there have been a whole slew of changes on our website.
We rebranded.
We did rebrand.
Yes, we're in season 9.
Yes.
And we rebranded everything and Kelly designed a bunch of clothes and it looks so cool, guys.
Yes.
So you definitely have to go over there and check out the merch. And if you actually, while you're there, you can become a Patreon. Well, a patron.
You're jumping ahead though.
Well, because they get discounts.
Jumping ahead.
You get discounts on the website.
You do get discounts on the website. And
there's a connection.
You can click the little button on the top right corner and it will lead you to our Patreon. But what I want to talk about is the weekly tracker that we now have available.
It's downloadable.
It is. It is. It's a PDF. You download it. You can have it printed. You could use it digitally. It is filled out by the week.
There we go.
And there's also a spot for journaling, and it takes care of you for a full year.
It does.
And with the discounts,
Mhm.
if you are a patron member in the $10 or higher tier, you do get a 50% off discount code for that tracker.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you are going and getting that so that you start your year on point.
Right? Because it's not just like your average day tracker,
It is not.
because it's tracking so many different things, like even your mood.
Mhm.
And I think that's important because I think sometimes people believe they're having more bad days than good.
Uh-huh.
And I think if you guys start like writing it down, that you're actually doing way better than you think you are.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of mean to ourselves.
Well, and we always talk about the pillars of a bariatric patient.
Right.
And so that's what this tracker is.
Mhm.
It is tracking your pillars. So it's sleep, water, protein, vitamins,
Right.
your mood, your water. So it's got a whole different thing, and you can actually look at it and be like, okay, how was this week? What do I need to improve on? And it's not focusing on the calories. It's not focusing on any of that.
The carbs. all
No,
that shit.
it's just your habits. It's a habit tracker. So go over and get that. Go to patreon.com/OSLP to become a patron because we love our patrons. And then what's the last thing they need to do, Mel?
They need to just go over to YouTube because
Mhm.
it's free for you to help us out with this. So
it is free.
it's already on your phone.
Preloaded.
Preloaded. Just click it, type in Our By Podcast. We're the only ones. And we will be giving you guys actual videos every single Tuesday, just like these. And again, you would know, but we might have a guest with us this whole time.
We might have a
Just might,
guest.
yeah.
Yes. And we are so excited to have this woman on the
Yes,
show.
we are.
I have so many questions.
I can't wait to hear your questions.
So many
to be honest.
questions. I do.
Huh?
I do because
You know
Okay.
you're starting off first then.
That's fine. That's fine. So we want to give Dr. Desiree a very warm welcome onto the show. Thank you so much for being on. Woo-woo.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear all about how you became a sex therapist.
That's right. And she is actually Pleasure Goddess on Instagram.
Yes.
Yes. The
And
pleasure goddess with underscores. Yes.
Okay. All right. But the other cool thing is that you've had surgery.
Yes. Yes.
So-
Yes. 3 years out.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So can you tell us, so let's first go into like your story as a bariatric patient. Where did your weight issue start and how did it lead you to surgery?
Absolutely. I've always been a thickums. I've always been like the taller kid and also like a little bit bigger. And it's interesting to look back on your childhood because honestly, I was pretty average size, but compared to everyone else, I felt like mammoth. And compared to how people made me feel, I felt very much abnormal, othered, made fun of for quite a bit of time. But because that's just been my life story, it was normal for me. You know, you learn to adapt and adjust and, just kind of live your life, which was pretty successful. And honestly, I have tried everything, maybe except for like the Mediterranean diet. So there was always this effort to just try to lose weight. Atkins was cool, but it would always come back. So that was just like the story. You try really hard, it'll come back. And 1 year I was in nursing school. I dropped out, but I was in nursing school and I was reading through the threads about the specialties and I saw bariatric surgery as a specialty. And I remember it said something like bariatric surgery was the only way to mediate the impacts of PCOS, which I was diagnosed with when I was like 19 or 20. And so it was like a light bulb went up in my head, right?
Yeah.
Everyone tells me just lose weight. All these doctors just lose weight. Nobody actually tells me how or what to do. And so I read that. I realized, I just keep gaining weight slowly, maintaining it, but not losing. And so I just made the decision to do a consult. No one's ever suggested it. I never even thought about it. But that one thread led me there. And 3 years later, here I am.
Thank you,
Reddit. Yeah.
Right? It was Reddit?
The internet wins. It was one of those nursing school boards or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was like, I don't remember her saying Reddit.
I don't know why I thought Reddit, but I'm just going to say it was Reddit. I will just give
nursing
it.
school Reddit.
Yeah. Nursing school, nurse Reddit.
Period.
Cheers. Yes. I love it.
Okay, so you had surgery and 3 years ago, and you've obviously been on this really cool journey, and you've been a very successful bariatric patient.
For the most part, yeah. I use my tools, and when I don't use my tools, the success doesn't quite feel as connected, which is part of my journey with pleasure. So even though I have this whole career that is about sex and intimacy, I really do try to expand the idea of pleasure when it comes to the body, the bariatric journey. Because if I just keep focusing on the weight and my body and the clothes, like the disappointment is just going to compound on whatever else I might be dealing with in life. So it's a journey, but I'm grateful, and I wish I'd done it like 10 years ago. So I'll never take that away.
Yeah, right.
Never, ever.
So then where did this sex therapy come into play?
The pleasure situation
idea. Like, explain this all.
I love it. So let's see. I've been in this field for about 10 years. This year, I want to say 2023.
Wow.
So this is just part of my profession. And honestly, I blame it on growing up in a very Catholic, strict background. But I also grew up like in and around DC and Maryland. So there's a lot of like overlapping and bifurcating things where you've got like this music on the radio, you have the way people talk, it's very sexually loaded. But then I have this upbringing in my church and in my school that's like, we don't even address these things.
Yeah.
So from a young age, it was pure curiosity, honestly. Parents, answer your children's questions, educate them.
Yes, please.
I mean, I'm not a warning story by any means. This is now my living, but it came from the fact that nobody was talking about it, but it was so blatantly obvious. And it's just morphed along the way as I've grown and learned professionally and personally. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, and I heard you say something about leading a pleasured life. Like, what does that mean exactly?
Oh, no, thank you for that question. And it's so novel every time I think about it, because truthfully, trauma oppression is quite rampant in Western society. We're just so desensitized to it. So I like to always bring this idea of liberation, of being selfish, not in an egoistic way, but just like, no, why are we conditioned to do things that really do not bring us pleasure, bring us joy, with some balance and harmony and in community? So for me, this pleasure-driven life is not about like overindulgence, but it is to say you deserve, period.
I love that. I love it because our new logo is OSLP, period. So when you're saying period, I'm like, yes, we hit the mark.
Branding.
I love that because I think a lot of us feel like we've always just gone through the motions, or we hear a lot like sitting on the sidelines. And like, I never did anything to like, I don't know, like make my heart go faster. Like if that makes sense. So like, I never did anything like riding a roller coaster to like, bring up my heart rate. Like I just kind of was there.
You're in like homeostasis at all times.
Yeah. And now it's like, well, I mean, we can try it. If I hate it, I hate it, but at least I tried it. And so it's very much learning, like, what do I enjoy? What do I actually want to do? Being, as I, told you, like, be picky.
Yeah.
Be picky within your own life. Because you do deserve to be happy and enjoy what you do.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what age you're in.
And in my opinion, honestly, some of this is also about access, right? When I was 324 or 350, certain things just didn't appeal to me. Like it was difficult for me, and it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. And now roller coasters are on my bingo card, right? Like there's just so many different things that I didn't realize because it just wasn't even viable. So these mini realizations are also parts of the pleasure where it's like, okay, I don't have to negate my larger body and that lived experience. We don't have to shame that. But we do also get to say, I don't have to live there in order to find my validation. I can just be here, explore, and keep growing.
Yeah. I love that. So how did you then go into sex therapy? Like why? Like, I've just got like all these questions running through my head. Like, how does it even like go into, how do you even think like, okay, I'm going to make a career out of this?
Yeah, I've always known since I'm 12. I either was going to be a ballerina, L&D, obstetrician, or a therapist.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've known it. And so I was very clear once I graduated from undergrad, I just went to school, got my master's in social work. And when I graduated from there, you go to sex therapy school, which is a lot more accessible now to get that training. But there is formal training that you undergo, years of your time and money. And so that was kind of the first part of my career, is getting the good clinical knowledge of being a mental health professional that my jobs provided, and then getting this extra training and experience along the way. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, actually.
Okay. So I have a question about my personal life.
Okay.
And this is like, as soon as you said, like, this is the sex therapist, I was like, oh my God. Like, I have so many questions. Okay. So I am not a very sexualized person. Like, I am not like one that's just like, I need to have sex all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm good with like a base amount. My boyfriend, however, is a very sexually
sex positive.
He loves to have sex. How do you merge those two as a couple? Like, how do you figure out how to make both sides happy, but then not feeling like you're just like, you know, doing it because your other person wants to do it, I guess might be a question. The question?
Yeah, no, that's actually super common.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're a regular person. So it's basically a desire discrepancy. One person might want it more, one person might want it less. And it's perfectly fine. The trick here is being able to come to some sort of I'll use the word compromise or middle ground about what actually is this for each of you. Is the function of sex to like fulfill the physical need? Is it to offset energy? Is it to get that TLC loving connection? And so just kind of taking it back there.
Okay.
Because most of the time people just fall into sex, right? It's just part of our attraction. It's part of what we think of as quote unquote normal, but we don't actually think, what is this for us? And so once you can kind of get back on the conversation, talking about it from that lens, we find a little bit more movement, because now I am empathetic. I'm compelled to say, oh, okay, this is how I can also meet your need for blah, 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 blah. Right. Also playing around with the timing. So some people are more erotic in the morning or in the evening. There's certain things that can lead up to it. So there's a ton of ways that you can play around with it. They all require, though, how do we think about it before intercourse actually happens, and creating a culture of eroticism.
Okay. And then like creating that conversation between the two of you where you feel comfortable talking about. Okay. So communication plays a big part.
Oh yeah.
In that.
I would like, just from having sex, like, yeah, like you need to talk. Like you guys should know each other's like rhythms, and like it's like having a conversation.
Well, no, I mean,
so
like,
you need to have a physical conversation, and then your bodies will have the other conversation.
Yeah, like I'm saying like communication before, saying like this is what I need, like because we actually had this conversation like a couple days ago, and it was like right, because he, you know, Zach's like one of those people where he wants to have sex every day. He'd be happy if it was multiple times a day. Like he's just very into sex, and I am not. I am just not. Like, I'm good with like maybe once a week. Like that's where my needs get met and I'm good. And so we were kind of talking, and he was like, and we opened up the conversation of like, what does he need? What do I need? And then I need, you know, him to understand, like, sometimes I am in a flare and I can't have sex and I'm not going to want to have sex. So I need you to be understanding of that and not make like sex comments about me because I can't fulfill that.
He'll throw shade at you for not being able to.
Well, I don't think it's so much shade. It's just like he wants to tell me that he finds me attractive.
Okay.
but I feel pressured.
Mm.
So like I feel guilty because I'm like, I'm in a flare and I can't have sex right now. And you're making sexual comments. And so now I feel bad because I can't do
Fulfill
anything.
those comments.
Yeah. So I don't think it's
Mhm.
so much shade as like, he's just trying to like communicate how he, like that he wants me.
Got you.
And it's like, dude, I know you want me. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't, like, you
Oh,
don't have to do
humble brag. I love it.
that.
Yeah. No, but that's important, right? Because miscommunications happen so easily, and sometimes they're very subtle. But in that instance, also super common where it's like, don't touch me, don't even hug me because you're gonna want sex. I already know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. And that creates avoidance where we really want connection, right? So you might, I don't know if you all have done this. It sounds like you've done a beautiful job, but like, okay, how else can he show his appreciation, affection for you in those moments? Like, what words are not activating? And then on your end, it might be this idea of kind of like, okay, yeah, I know he's just giving me his blah, blah, blah. And I'm not entitled to do anything. Like, he's clear, I'm clear. So right now, this is just affirmation. I should do a PSA. I'm no one's therapist. I'm just offering insight and feedback. So yeah.
Yes. I appreciate it because it's very hard, like coming from the relationship that I came from, where I was married for 15 years and it was not a good relationship. And there were times that like sex was used as basically like almost like a weapon of like, he didn't care if I wanted to, like that's what was happening. And so coming from that into like the situation where Zach would never force me, never in a million years, but then I feel guilty because of what I came from. So I'm trying to like, I'm getting more comfortable at like communicating that to him of like, this is where I'm coming from. And so I am learning slowly, but we do need to continue to communicate, which has helped. It has helped a lot. And then I realized like, I need to get past what I'm feeling sometimes and just like be in the moment with him.
Yeah.
Versus like going through all of the
going
past
backwards.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. How brilliant. How brilliant. I mentioned this at the bariatric retreat, and I mentioned it to all my people because it's the truth. Sometimes, especially in sexual circumstances, we have our survival mechanisms that show up, right? They're ways of coping, they're ways of making us feel safe and okay. However, they're usually divergent from coping and intimacy skills. And that's what I'm hearing you say, where it's just like, yeah, I still got my survival skills to just kind of armor myself and manage this. And we're recognizing that, okay, we get to start to shift it. So it's a dynamic, it's relational, but it's also the beautiful work that we get to do for ourselves to live really full lives. So, I mean, many kudos to you, Miss Ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a journey.
I'm sure.
So I have one more question.
Go ahead.
How often is like, what is normal? Or not
Average.
normal. What is an average of the times that people should like have sex? Because it's like, I hear all different numbers, and then some people are like, no, I feel like it's average like 2 or 3 times a week. But I don't know if like being a sex therapist, if you have a little bit more insight into that.
Oh, well, so here's the downside. People don't come to me when it's like solid operational. They usually come when it's a little bit of a more problematic. So from experience, those numbers will be just very off because I'm in a niche hole here. But the real answer, honestly, it's however often people want and desire it. Right.
Okay.
It just,
I thought that's what
it
your
just
answer would
is.
be.
You're entitled to your body, to your pleasure. And consent should just be part of it either way. With that being said, people should be aware on when they feel disconnected from sex and intimacy. So if it feels like it is, we might use the word compulsive. Some people use the word addictive, which is not language that I prefer. But if that's how you see yourself, really just examining, is the function of sex actually what I desire, or has it become an outlet or something else? So really just being sure that we're clear, it's not out of control something that is disconnected or just like vacuous in some way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have questions over there.
And not that I have questions, it's more or less like, because they're not really personal questions, it's just, and like general, like what are you seeing that is a problem for like the average person? Like what should people be like realizing this can happen and it's okay and it's not a problem?
I like that question.
Yeah. So the desire discrepancy is actually very common amongst my couples. I might have people from very religious backgrounds who are very conflicted around sex, especially if they come from religious, orthodox, we can even say cult backgrounds, because what they were taught about not only sex, but their roles and identities are not the lives they desire to live. So we also have this faith and belief component now that we're kind of having to lock in there around intimacy. With my bariatric people, it's the body image, it's the sex, it's the relationships. And for my people who are dating, it's all dating, relationships, and sex, how to disintegrate the damage done by maybe more casual dynamics, and how to be a bit more smart and introduce intimacy with good boundaries. So we're not using sex to cope. It's an extension of a stable foundation.
Okay.
I like that.
Well, and I know like when I first got like to my lowest, the skin thing drove me nuts. And I hated the clap back. I was like, now it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. But, it was new to me and it threw me off. And I know I'm not the only one that has that clap back. So how would you help someone that is going through that problem?
Oh, well, first off, just being able to acknowledge that it's not a problem, right? Number one, it's the result of losing a significant amount of weight. So framing that our bodies are not, they're not objects, right? We're all trying to get closer to that thin ideal that says like your body has to be this way to be valuable. And that's simply not the truth, right? So once we just start to dismantle this idea of what the body should be, we can also be real with the fact that, it's going to make noise. Maybe we start to experiment how we move so we don't hear it as much either. We get to play around with our clothes. So all of those become more actionable when it's not laced in judgment and like self-derision.
I think about the body image part, because I know like I don't, body dysmorphia plays a part. Is like, you look at yourself and you're like, I'm still 300 pounds or whatever your highest weight is, and you're not. And so it's really hard to be intimate with somebody when you don't even feel like you want to be intimate with anybody.
100%. And so it's interesting because I like I said earlier, I just newly minted doctorate.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the focus of my doctoral project was on using mindfulness and self-compassion for the sexual body image of bariatric women. And so part of this, I know like how timely, part of the self-compassion piece is what mediates the body shame, because we just become this object measuring ourselves in these external ways. And also the objectification piece, right, is the part that takes us away from being parts of our bodies, right? Now we're these aspects that really enhance body dysmorphia, as opposed to being like, okay, I can appreciate what my belly does for me. I get that I have the sagging skin, and the sagging skin is functional. The body moves this way. So we really have the opportunity to come into a personal relationship with ourselves in order to compensate for some of the damage that's been done. Trying to fit in, trying to manage, just being like a person in the world. But those imprints are quite lasting.
Yeah.
And weight loss doesn't mean anything. Like our lived experiences give us the template for how to be in the world.
Yeah.
And so with the changing body, we have to change that template as well.
Yes. And I would say going from being married to a man that didn't really have a good sex drive, to now I'm dating, and like these dudes like some of them are just really nice. And you're like, and they're literally like complimenting your body. And I think that is very helpful if your partner can compliment you while you're even naked, because like I'm now like there's 2 dudes that I've done that with, and I feel comfortable just walking around naked. But like it took me a couple of years to be comfortable walking around naked with my husband. So it's kind of interesting, like the different dynamics of just like if your partner can compliment you and how much it can go.
I think it does make a difference. I think it really does make a difference, because my ex rarely complimented me. I felt like I was always like digging for the compliments. Like, what do you think? What do you think of me in this dress or whatever? And with Zach, I don't have to like draw those out. Like he just automatically says them. And even though he'll say them sometimes, I'm like, thanks, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's my own history there, but it's hard to listen to it sometimes. Like I'm like, I just don't compliment me right now. Like I don't see it.
I mean, and you all can probably speak to this as well in terms of like the partner selection. Like there might be things that you consider to be non-negotiables at this juncture. There's certain things that people say where it's like, oh, I'm really not into that. And whenever I come in contact with any potential partner, I'm listening for if they have like fat phobic comments. What are they saying? What are they saying about their own bodies? And I'll make it very clear. So this fitness journey you're on, I hope you don't expect me to also be on it. Okay, cool. Thank you. To be very clear about what their job is with their body, but also like you all are saying, an appreciation for me and my body. Yeah. But those should just be relational skills that I think are often sacrificed in an effort to not be alone.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah, we definitely did it. I had my comfort level. And like I said, I didn't do anything that raised my heart rate.
Yeah.
Like that's how I lived my life. And that's exactly the description of my whole marriage. Was everything was just there. Like there was nothing that, it was just comfort. It was just pure comfort. And so now, I mean, Zach drives me up the fucking wall half the time, but I love him. And, you know, we're working on things together. And that's what I see when I think about our relationship is that, and it helps that he had bariatric surgery too. And I've known him
for a long
24 years, 23 years, something like that. So yeah, so it makes things a little bit easier, but one of my non-negotiables when I was thinking about it was knowing what boundaries I have and respecting those boundaries, but then also being willing to work on yourself and us as a couple. If you're willing to do that, we can work through things together. If you're not willing to like go to therapy, you're not willing to talk about things, I'm out.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Be on the pedestal. You should have always been there, honestly. You just see it a bit more, it's just a bit more blatant and it's unfortunate. And at the same time, it is what it is. Right? If this is the opportunity at our disposal, let's take advantage of it so that we get to do our own healing. And hopefully this registers and resonates across the world, right? Like, how do we just invite more dignity, more boundaries, more connection? We would call it attunement in the therapy world, right? But like, how do we find safety, connection, nurturing within a dynamic? But both people have to contribute to that or else kind of screwed.
Yeah,
100%. Exactly. I think that's what I'm like looking for is like non-negotiables is like, what do I really want? What is like okay and not okay? Because I love that you brought up the workout thing because the person I'm seeing right now, we were talking about working out and he's like, you know, working out's very important. Like I would love like for you to go with me. And I was like, well, I like working out as well. I go, but honest with you, if I go with you, I'm not working out with you. And he's like, what? And I was like, it's going to be earbuds in and I'm doing my thing and you do your thing and then we leave together. Like I'm not going to do whatever workout you make because I'm not. That's not how this is going to roll.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, like that's just how like, I was like, that's just one of my things. I'm like, I need to be all in with my music and get on that fucking row machine.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think it's important to say like, I will not do this. Like, this is not like, I think it's fun if you like plan a date around working out and you guys go in and do a couple things together. But if you're going on a daily basis, no, there's no reason why I need to stick to your side.
No.
I'm a full ass grown adult. Nobody's stealing me. We're good.
Right?
We are good. Let me do my own thing. You do your own thing.
Period. Plus, your needs are probably different, right? Like you said, you're all in on your plan.
Mhm.
And when we're authentic and then we're honest, everybody gets the opportunity to give their yeses and their nos.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. It's scary, but like being honest, being open, and understanding that people can say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the greatest gift, is being able to be like, okay, well, maybe a workout date is not for us, or okay, cool beans. So what time are we leaving?
Yeah.
That's clear.
Exactly.
So
Love
with bariatrics, there is this stigma around divorces and bariatrics, and kind of like the crumble of relationships if you were together pre versus post and all of that. What are some kind of issues that you see that maybe could be communicated better within couples when they're going through, when one half is going through bariatrics?
I have an answer to your question, but before I answer your question, I have to fix the question a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I mean, it's a stigma, but it's also just like a fact.
Okay.
Divorce is high after bariatric surgery. But part of that is because those relationships sometimes were trash to begin with.
Right.
So that's the gift. The power dynamics were probably off. There was a lot of objectification, probably some abuse, and maybe not like physical or emotional, but just like this, okay, or that, right?
Or
So
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, to not be alone, to not be lonely, to be normal, quote unquote, like there's a lot of things you're willing to accept to just be in a relationship, to be considered worthy, or whatever have you. So yeah, when someone's body changes, there is your own process, but then there's also the process of that person. And if the dynamic was really not equitable, healthy, reciprocal, it's going to crumble. And honestly, it should. So those relationships, when people are having healthy relationships and they get bariatric surgery, typically those healthy relationships continue.
Right.
Okay.
Right? Because they were healthy, loving relationships. And now it's like, okay, happy, proud of you, whatever. And so, yeah, the high divorce is real and it's an opportunity. So I want to affirm that if it was not thebomb.com, if you tried communicating and working with your partner and they were not receptive or responsive, then understand that that was their choice around the relationship, and it's okay to let that go. You have a whole new chapter in front of you. So that was the fix. But to answer your question,
I agree with that.
I was like, it's true. And good people for finding their empowerment, right? Now, what can people do? Be honest. Be very, very honest about your yeses and your nos. Especially if you are someone who is a female identified. Conditioned responses to like not take care of your needs, to just fade into the background, to be the funny one, couches a lot of our organic desires and pleasures. So spend some time just getting to know yourself. Date yourself if you want to, and then teach your partner or your prospective partner how you want to be treated. Right? Like these are invitations to start modeling for people how you desire for them to show up to your life, because you emanate that as well. And if you're already doing it, like, keep going. It's wonderful. Kick it up a notch even. And if you're not, we also get to check in on what obstructs that for you. It's probably something with fear, abandonment, rejection. And so get the support you need around that as well. It's real and it's fine.
Well, I remember being scared, like talking about that stuff at first with Eric. And then once I did, I felt kind of dumb being scared, just because like he was completely receptive of that. And so I'm like, why was I so nervous? But it's also, I'm afraid of rejection.
And you're afraid, like at that point you were afraid to be alone.
Oh yeah, because I just became like, I now know after being outside this marriage is the fact of like, I was a bigger woman. He was like, everybody loved him. He was the party guy and fun guy. So we had a baby, got married, and like, yeah, once I got, surgery done, I would like open my eyes to everything that was actually happening around me, where I'm like, oh, this man's he takes advantage of me. Oh, he's a little like verbally abusive. Like, there's just these random things that just you ignored because you don't want to be alone. And I totally did that, and I'm definitely one of those cases, and it's fine to be one of those cases. I remember being like, I'm not going to be that case. I'm not going to be that statistic, but it's also like, who cares? Like, if you are, you are. And if you're not one statistic, you're another fucking statistic. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, right? It's like, you just got to do what you like, what makes you actually feel happy. And for us, we drifted apart. There was some extras, of course, of why we drifted apart, but it's fine. Like, I'm only 37. There's so much years ahead.
I mean, you know what's really funny though?
I love you. She's like,
yeah, 37. There's a lot left. Okay.
If I could stay 37, I'd be happy.
I know, this is a good one.
I like 37. I really do. I was nervous to turn 37, and now I'm like, I like it. I like it here. I'll just stay here.
I've liked my 30s.
Yeah. I really have. So what's funny is you saying that you thought about that within your marriage. I never once thought about it. Like, I knew it was like the divorce after.
Oh.
So like, I knew that it was a statistic and a fact. And I was like, oh yeah, we're not that. I was not worried at all about that. I was like, nah, we're going to be together forever, blah, 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 blah. And then now I look back and I'm like, Kelly, you're an idiot. Like, you're just an idiot for like.
You're not an idiot. You
just
see it.
I didn't see it. And that's part of why I'm like, I'm an idiot for not seeing it. But I also was protecting myself, which I know through therapy. But it's interesting that you thought about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't think about it, yet we're still divorced.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not an idiot and you're not dumb, right? There's plenty of things. Obviously, no one has to say anything. You can just visualize it. If you go back in your life story, you can consider where you learned, oh, shoot, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't say this. And that becomes the template of where we learn about the abandonment, the rejections, and not getting the heart rate up, and just kind of starting to tune certain things out organically. So it's protective. It's a way of cope. It's the survival template that takes up through the process of bariatric surgery. Like, you just have to take care of yourself so differently. And in my opinion, that process also facilitates these changes for people. It did for me, at least. So I see it with other people. It's just something about having to take care of yourself in such different ways over a significant amount of time, where everything becomes like, wait a minute, I can't quite do this the same. I feel differently in relationship to these things. So no, you both are right. You both are awesome. This is how we learn.
Yeah, we did learn a lot.
We've learned a lot.
Yeah. And we know what we don't want. And I think it's funny because my coping mechanism is to say, it's fine. Whatever, it's fine. I can deal with it, whatever. And so my goal that has been all of this year is just being able to say like, well, no, that's not fine.
Yeah.
And really like understanding like that is not fine. So we're going to either talk about it or it really is fine. And it doesn't make that much impact on my life, but I need to be able to like discern, like, is this coping because I don't want to deal with the rejection or the confrontation, or is this actually fine?
Yeah. You actually analyze it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been able to do better at like in my relationships, and not just like Zach, but like my family with you, we're able to have discussions because I'm actually able to say like, okay, this is not fine.
Yep.
Like, I'm feeling like this, or take a break and walk away, think about it, and then come back. Like, a lot of things have changed with that. But yeah.
I love it when a woman finds liberation. Like, oh my God. I'm like, yes.
I feel like we both have.
We
Like
have.
we're getting there. It's been
Been a hell of a year.
it's been a hell of a year,
Yeah.
but like we're finding out like that we're more powerful than we think we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, that's the pleasure. Just give yourself the chance to indulge, to dream higher. Let me not jinx it. Let me not knock on wood. But everything that I dreamed and desired this year, it's come into fruition. And it's even just realizing how much of a chance I did not give myself to just
Yeah.
like dream big, do whatever.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest encouragement, especially for bariatric people, is like stop playing small. Like go big.
Go big. Go big or go home.
I was about to say that. You suck.
I said it first. Yeah.
So, question around pleasure with just yourself. So, is there anything you can do throughout the day to make you like more in the mood or make you feel good? So that way, when your partner does come up to you, you seem more receptive.
That's
Is
a
there
really good question.
anything that we can do on our own?
Oh my gosh, totally. Number one, self-pleasure. If you desire, right? If your body is calling for it, absolutely. I'm a self-pleasure advocate. Penis owners have that refractory period. So, if they self-pleasure, we kind of might have to time out. Some people are more gifted than others, but for vagina owners, that's really not the case. Like,
Yeah.
some people have more energy, want to go again. So if you desire to energize your body that way, go right ahead, right? I love talking about pleasure through the senses as well. So considering like what is the music that just makes you feel alive and vitalized, what smells do it. I'm obsessed with perfume these days. Like perfume.
Yeah, smells are good.
Okay.
Sexy. So I'm just saying, right? And then also just this idea of playing around with like your sexual archetype as well. So
Ooh, what's that?
Oh my goodness. Think about it like Jasmine from Aladdin versus like maybe Cruella de Vil, right? She's not the sexiest, but you see what I'm saying? Like we get to have these energies around our eroticism that we embody. And if you're just kind of like, yeah, I show up here, that's perfect. That's fine. But what does it look like to be a bit more flirtatious, to be a bit more demanding, to be a bit more explicit and direct, right? Or maybe even to surrender and just playing on what does it look like for you to embody that and then share it with your partner if you have a partner, right? And if not, what does it look like to feel that for yourself? Again, using your senses when you self-pleasure. Do you actually listen to yourself? Do you allow yourself to express that? Or do you kind of still restrict in some ways? So all of these things are just little things we can do, but they totally enhance the experience and they bring a bit more of your presence into opportunities and toys if you want.
And toys.
They're never a bad thing, in my opinion. I mean,
No, there's nothing wrong with them.
yeah.
That's what we use toys. We'll just say that. We're grown ass women. Who doesn't use toys?
Well, some people don't like them, but that's
I'm sure, but I mean, ladies in the 50s were using cucumbers. At least we've like grown.
that is true.
Safety first.
Well, I mean, even in like medieval times, weren't they using like glass?
Oh,
I
golly,
hope
they
not.
were doing a lot in medieval times and the hygienic concerns were not there. So yeah.
Okay, so don't do that.
Don't
but
know.
no, but I'm just saying, like, this is like a ongoing theme. People are
Yes.
using other
Objects.
objects within sex.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Right.
it shouldn't be a shock that there's people using toys.
Oh, not
I'm
at all.
just saying.
No. The technology around toys is like surpassed in the past 30 to 50 years. Things have USB ports where they used to have to plug into the wall, right? So there's all of these different things, textures, rubberized silicone. Educate yourself on water-based versus any other kind of lubricants and just seeing what works for your body. Same with prophylactics condoms, right? Not every condom works for everyone's body. And that actually brings me to something totally not related to what you all are saying, but also notice how your body responds to someone that you're with. I've heard this. I cannot scientifically prove it. I have not found it, but I've looked. I have met some women who have said that when they're intimate with someone, they throw off their pH. And for some reason, that was like a big sign that they shouldn't be with that person. I don't know what it is, pheromones, but it's either a hygiene thing or it's your body being like, this ain't the one.
mix.
So,
Huh. I don't know if my pH has ever changed.
How do you know if your pH changed?
I have no
well,
fucking
you
clue.
can use like strips. Yeah, like you can use
Like the
pH
ones you
strips.
use
When
for the
people are
pool,
working
you
out,
just
when people are trying to go into ketosis, they'll use those pH strips to check their pH.
Yeah, so it's UPI.
Yeah.
you pee on.
Yeah, you don't like dip it in. Fucking nerd.
Yeah, no, but
Good.
you'll know your regular pH, and when it becomes like too acidic, it might be related to diet, right? There's like all these things that doesn't agree with your body, and ultimately your body is a bunch of systems, right? So our vagina is also close to our bladder, our urethra is in front of, so we have all these things that are also designed to expel lining, prepare for a baby. So in addition to pleasure, we also have the functional parts to consider.
That's
Yes.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to know. I had no idea how to do that.
I'm just like,
What? You know, I'm a very visual person.
I know. It's
So-
just the fact that you're like, what do you just dip it in you? Like, no, no.
Well, because I thought,
Don't
no,
dip it.
this is why. I'll give you the real reason.
Okay.
Okay. One, when you pee on a strip,
Yes.
I was thinking it's going to tell you what your pee's pH is, not what your vagina is, because your vagina is different than your pee. So I was like, do you just touch it on the inside?
My God.
You know what? Honestly, I would be super curious about that as a research study. If you try out both, just saying, DM me and see what you find out.
All right. I'll do a little scientific.
All right, I'm writing
Write
it
that
down.
down.
I'm
You
writing
have to
it down.
buy pH strips first because
Yes.
I'm not going to use my pool ones. Apparently, you shouldn't do that.
No, those are for
Always do.
chlorine. Those are for
I'd be
chlorine.
concerned. I'd be
Yes,
concerned.
please don't. Please, we can afford pH strips.
Yes, we can. We have pH strip money.
I can't even
Any
spell right
CVS.
now.
Any CVS.
For Walgreens.
That's so
For experiment.
for experiment. Oh, we're gonna video this shit. This is gonna be great.
Not of your vagina.
No.
I'm just saying, like,
I'll just come out of the balcony and be like, second one done.
oh my God. Look out for that, guys. Oh my God.
So good.
So weird.
Okay, now that we've learned what we can do for ourselves, what can we do to help our partners?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Honestly, helping your partners is inviting them to also share with you what it is that they would like, right?
Okay.
It's almost like love languages. People like to copy paste what they like onto their partner.
Mhm.
And you can totally do that, like explore, but also collect the data from them about like what turns you on, what do you like. I personally always recommend those little sexy quizzes online to just go through and gauge each other's temperature. Like,
Wait,
how
there's
does your
sexy
partner-
quizzes online?
Yes, of course there is. There's
What
quizzes
a-
over everything.
But what is this sexy quiz? Like, what does it do? I don't know. I've never done one.
So the beauty is that you both get to take the quiz or the check boxes
Okay.
to gauge each other's interests. And there's so many different kinds. One of the favorite ones that I like is that both people take them separately, and then you get the results of the ones that you've only agreed on,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So let's say if I want to do something outdoors and my partner's like, no for that, it'll only show me the ones that we've both said yes to. So that's
nice.
sometimes a safe way.
Okay.
But I also don't shy away from the conversations about, okay, let's say one person is a bit more kinky, or maybe they're a bit more of an exhibitionist, they have this body, they've always had this body, they want to show it off. Okay, this is what you're into. We don't shame our partner's interests. We don't yuck other
Okay.
people's yum is the phrase, right?
Mm-hmm. Don't make
and just
faces when they tell you.
At all. Yeah.
At
no.
all.
Not in a reciprocal accepting relationship. Like that really is not part of the deal here, right? We
Okay.
create safe and sacred spaces, in my opinion, to understand what that is for the person, right? As opposed to, oh, what a freak or what a weirdo. It's like, oh, okay, what about that do you like? Okay, it's not my thing. Is that something you want me involved in that we're doing? So just like make it a conversation. And then that's understanding what's off the table, what your yeses and nos are, what your partner's desires are, and where you all can meet in the middle.
Okay. I like that. Because I think a part of mine and Eric's relationship that was so hard is that like it was interesting where he didn't want me to initiate. He wanted to be the initiator. But if I didn't initiate, we never had sex.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So like what I started doing, because I listened on some podcast about it, of like in the morning just being really playful and like just slowly build the playfulness in hopes. And does that work? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
That's that well, first off, that's that culture of eroticism, but have you noticed that it works?
It did. Yeah. It did. Yeah.
Picking up what you're putting down. And that's the hard part, right? When somebody either by default, one person becomes the initiator for whatever reason, or that's been the agreement, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, but we're kind of like stuck on your schedule here. And maybe I don't want to be on that schedule, but that's not where we have to leave things. So like you're saying, starting to drop some hints, whether it's non-verbally or verbally, just really putting it out there. And so now it's like, oh, there's a responsiveness that gets to take place. And so, yeah, sometimes flirt.
Yeah, I was going to say flirt, because I tried that for like a couple days and it worked, but it took a couple days. If I was just through compliments and just do like touching your shoulder or whatever, just like throwing it down. And then like, it took about 3 days later, but it worked. But it just took work on the other side. And for me, I just don't want to have to do all of that work.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
You want an equal partner in the initiating.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh,
and I feel like that's a good boundary to set up.
And it sounds like an agreement as well, where it's like, listen, if you see me doing these things, this is what it means. Right. And so if they're picking up on it, great. And if not, we get to put these things on the table, so to speak, and not as a one-off. Like we get to come back to our agreements. Actually, I should say this with a caveat. Sometimes with agreements that don't go the way that we think they should go, people just kind of abandon them and they're like, oh, well, this didn't work. And it's like, well, okay, sure. But maybe we didn't consider some things. Maybe it just didn't pan out the way that we thought it would. And there's something else to add in or understand. So keep coming back like weekly, bi-weekly at the minimum until there's a bit more of a rhythm that feels good. But also just like the weather, rhythms change. So sometimes we have to shift and adjust, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So I also saw this thing on, I think it was TikTok. Of course it was TikTok. And it was a couple and they kept sex journals, not so much of like what happened, but of like things that they thought about that they wanted to work on with their partner. And then they would have meetings and like they would talk about it. Okay. Like how they were each feeling over their time. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I like when people write things down, similar to the journal the habit trackers you all were talking about, because we lose so many things just in day-to-day life. And also sometimes the stories that we create about something, sometimes someone has to be at blame or at fault. So being able to journal, write it out, get clarity might help to facilitate conversations. I do encourage people to have the conversations though, as opposed to like texting or these really passive forms of communication, because you just miss out on too much. But if you have your script or your reference, your source material, have at it. Like it.
Okay. It's like prep work. Yeah. Cause I mean, I think sometimes like, because me and Zach live apart, we live in 2 different houses. And so sometimes when I'm by myself, I'll think of something, but it's not necessarily something that I want to text or like talk on the phone. Like I want to be able to have a conversation in person about it. And so when I saw that, I was like, it's funny because it's been in the back of my mind for a couple weeks now.
Okay.
And because I think I saw it while we were in Atlanta. And so it's kind of just been like in the back. And so it's funny. I'm like, oh, I can ask this question. Like, is this helpful? Is this not helpful? Like, because, sometimes I don't want it to turn into like homework, you know? I want it to be like we're working on it together, but it's like not homework. It's like us just like working towards like having a functional and happy relationship and coming to meet in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, compromise.
Yeah.
But a happy one.
Yeah, happy compromise.
Mm-hmm.
I call it home play, honestly, because no one wants work. Home play. Yeah, we're just playing, we're just exploring, we're just seeing how things are. And it's inorganic to an extent, you know. So anything that's inorganic feels super sterile and awkward at first, but you just have to keep doing it until you find your own rhythm to it and make it enjoyable. If we approach it awkward, it's going to be awkward. But if we're just like, heck yeah, I want to mow you down, but like, what do you need from me? Okay, this is what I want from you. Totally different tone and energy, which goes back to that archetypal embodiment, right? Like, what version of yourself do you desire to bring to these conversations and to your own pleasure?
Okay. All right.
I think the other question I have is like, say if your partner is very like scared to talk, because like we keep trying to say like put them in a safe place, but like, is that when they need to like maybe come to you? Is we're like, hey, let's have a professional come in on this?
Totally. If two people are willing to do the work, professional support helps. And that's one thing that I've noticed. If someone's unwilling, they're not going to do well, even if they show up, because they have to be ready and available to do their work. So we don't necessarily have to judge the fear, but we also get to say, I desire this caliber of relationship with you. And that's not available without this amount of connection with being heard. And so like, yeah, like, are you able to do this part with me? Get the support we need. So my job is giving people skills a lot of times, insights, or just doing a bit of that deep dive that they're kind of blind to for a lot of reasons, but this is what I'm trained to do and understand. So just inviting people to understand themselves in ways that maybe they just don't get yet. But when they have that aha, we can shift it.
Okay.
Well, and can you talk a little bit more about how it's not a shameful thing? Like this is normal, natural of what we're supposed to be doing just as people and humans.
The therapy part or the sex part?
Both.
Both, please.
Both, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no. So some of this depends on people's upbringings and backgrounds, right? But inherently, whatever value system you have, we get to say that you are valuable. There is really no authority or restriction on this earth that should infringe upon you, or else what was ever the point, right? So just getting to this place that we are supposed to be evolutionary, we are supposed to be developmental. And at this stage in the game, it's typical, but it's not ideal to still operate with the rules that you were given. And it's like a phonograph, right? We just put our own voice on it and it becomes our thoughts, but it's not us. Yeah. Right. So being able to really understand our relationship to sex, our relationship to our bodies, our relationship to our erotic capital, like how do we even interface in the world around these concerns, really invigorates us to kind of say, okay, what am I holding on to that doesn't belong to me, that I no longer need? And what do I desire to cultivate? And being like responsible for that. You know, we can't blame, and I always blame my parents because I'm like, dang on it, they ain't teach me nothing about nutrition. Yeah. But it's like, okay, yeah, like that happened and you were fat for a long time. Okay, cool. And now we did all this stuff. So when do you get to be in charge of your life? So that's the real question. Today you get to be in charge of your life. What are you going to do with it?
How do you see it? Is the question. How do you see your life, whether that's your bariatric life, your sexual life, your life as a partner? What do you see? What do you want? It goes back to you saying, shoot big. Like you want to dream big. I think that goes right along with that. Like what do you want to see the rest of your life become?
Yeah. Like in all the different avenues.
Like I know.
Collected.
Yeah.
And it's like to have this good sex life, you also have to consider how you want to show up sexually. You have to consider the partnerships or the types of pleasure that you want. So it's not anything it can be isolated, but typically it's not, right? Once you start to recalibrate the standards for all of these things, it inherently trickles over into sex and intimacy.
Oh,
Okay. Now, you've said it before that your parents didn't talk to you. Ours certainly did not to us at all. Like,
No.
It's annoying. So, as a parent, when do you think they should start talking about this? Like, how soon should we like just be open, honest, and just like, I know me, like with Dylan, we say this is a penis, we say this is a vagina, like we'd give them the real terms because that's something I was like, we have to do. But when is it a good time to start talking about this and just making them feel comfortable?
As young as possible. I've heard as young as 3. But honestly, like you're saying, using the appropriate language that is age appropriate so that they can first get to know their bodies, right? We think about bodies and children in this very sexualized manner, which in some ways is protective, right? We don't want to expose or risk, but at the same time, it can't be your cuckoo or your privates. Like they are entitled to have their own sexual rights, which includes knowing about their body. So it's age appropriate, and maybe it's just understanding that this is what this is. And when they start to hit adolescence, prepubescence, starting to shift those conversations, because we also have hormones, we have these social connections and dynamics that we do want to prepare them for. So as early as possible is what is encouraged, and continuing to shift the conversation so that it's appropriate, but also that it's normal. Like it might be a little bit awkward, but it doesn't have to be this weird, awkward thing all of a sudden one time. We can set that tone.
Yeah, because I feel like with me, my mom certainly did not talk to us about, like, I feel like she kind of left it up to like the school, your health class to kind of teach you. But even then, you're so embarrassed to have to talk about this because there's boys and there's girls and like there's things on the screen and you're just like, I remember I was just like, put my head down, don't pay attention type of thing. Like I was so embarrassed to even be in that class because there was no groundwork laid at all. So like I didn't know that it was completely normal to discuss these things. And then going to like fast forward to when I was 16 and had sex for the first time, I didn't know most of what was going on. Like I knew I was going to have sex, but I didn't have any groundwork laid for that.
None of us did.
Yeah.
No.
So it's to me, it's very important to like not, and with like the social media, like kids are on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on all these things.
And they can get onto porn sites real quick.
Oh yeah. And they're seeing these things on TikToks. Like it's crazy to me, some of the things that they're seeing, because I have 2 bonus kids. My boyfriend Zach has 2 kids and they're 15 and 18 and they're both girls. And I love them, but I'm just like, some of the things I'm like, I don't know if that's like a good thing for you to watch, like Euphoria, like that was a whole new level.
That's a question. When's like, I don't even know if this really matters, but like seeing sexual things on the screens, like when is a time frame that's okay? Because I remember when I read this boy adolescent book, because I was taking like that class for the age group, and so they were saying in the age, but correct me if I'm wrong, I could have swore it was like between 12 and 14 for boys. Like the things that they see and the things that happen to them and things that they're around can really like take them for the rest of their life of how they like sexual things and what can happen. So like, how do we make sure we're being safe around our kids? Like, I wouldn't even smoke out of my bong because I was like, I don't want Dylan to see me sucking on anything.
Oh my God, no.
No, but it's a thing. They didn't want, there was something I read that like they don't want their mother seen in any sexual way during that time frame. Like that's
interesting.
That prepubescent period.
Yeah.
Is it impactful? Sure. But also like, so is 17, 16 going to be? Also, it's just that age when we're trying to find like social acceptance, connection. They're finding their own identity. And so all of this stuff that was like fun about their parents before is kind of like, this is different. I'm questioning it. And then sexually speaking, like, no, I don't want to have any connections with what's happening here.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it's such a tenuous topic these days because, like we're saying, social media, TV is so accessible. You just verify you're 18 by pushing a button. So,
Right.
you know, I need my whole face to open my cell phone, but whatever. And so it's just,
No, it's
That's
fair.
true.
It doesn't make any sense.
It
it
doesn't.
doesn't. But I mean,
Not at all.
no reason to steal more of my data. But anywho, it goes back to this idea of when we teach about the values cohesively, about bodies, body image, respect, sex, intimacy, self-pleasure, right? Like, how are we teaching penis and vagina owners about self-pleasure, doing it in your room, touch? When we start to frame these conversations, we give enough of a foundation that they start to learn and figure things out. Not figure things out, they start to learn for themselves what they prefer. And also, we can have intervention conversations where it's just like, listen, this content is a bit much. It's not appropriate for where you are. This is more so for when you're over 18. See, it says it over 18. So we can have these conversations. And also, there's discussions about ethical porn and objectification of women and how sometimes it can be a fantasy. So for that age, we can introduce those topics as well, whether or not they're going to scoff at it. But hey, that's what it is. But we can certainly do our part as the adults in young people's lives to really just inform them as opposed to shame or shield them in the ways that our parents tried to protect us, which didn't give a foundation for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even we were going to Planned Parenthood for our birth control. Like, I don't even think my mom knew I was on birth control.
Probably not.
And like, so that's something that I've kind of realized is like, I would like to be able to talk about like that birth control is important and being safe and being prepared for what's going to happen, because you don't want a kid at 16. Like, you don't want to do that because you want to be able to live a life and then be a functional parent after. And at 16, it's very hard to do that. I mean, not that it can't be done, but it's more difficult.
A conversation on values and desires, right? So I think these are all important to share from the space of sharing, loving, consideration, as opposed to what some people do, which is more of the judgment, what's the word I'm looking for? Just more of the stringent, you should, you shouldn't ways of being, and just like opening for questions, like you're saying, offering options, all these different types of birth control. Is this even good for your body, friend? Do you know about a pelvic exam? That's one thing actually too, right? People with any sort of pelvic pain disorders, and just understanding what's available at the gynecologist. So there's all these things that we just assume people will take care of, the professional, the teacher, and we just don't equip people with the basic things that we're just, it's so normal for us.
Yeah, exactly. No, I couldn't agree more.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe we forgot to ask?
No, you all are amazing interviewers. Now that I'm a newly minted doctor, the time is coming for me to create bariatric content. So if anyone desires to see more in the community around sex, intimacy, pleasure,
yes, please,
you hit me up. I have ideas, but I'm also open because y'all my peeps. So let me know.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Well, we do need to talk about it more within the community.
We do.
You know, it's I like that you're not just talking about pleasure with your partner or by yourself, but it's pleasure within your bariatric community or with your bariatric journey.
You just throwing shit?
I'm throwing shit. But it's encompassing it all into your life. And I feel like especially the relationship aspects, it's not talked about as much because nobody wants to talk about divorce. And I think preventing some of that by being able to talk with your partner and kind of communicate about what's happening, I think is huge. And so I think you should bring more to the community is what I was going to say. long story short.
Long story.
You called my name and I answered. I will be there.
Yes.
Yes, we love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, sharing your knowledge. You guys will find all of her links below. And don't forget to check out our Sleep Life podcast, new merch, the habit tracker that you can download for, and it's a year tracker.
That's right.
And then also go to patreon.com/OSLP and become a patron. And then of course, go to ProCare.
Yeah.
Go
Get
to
your
ProCare.
vitamins, guy.
Yep. Get the official vitamin of the podcast. All right. We love you guys and we will see you next time. Bye.